welcome. My name is Cristina Manjac. I'm training sales specialist at ETA2U, the organizer of this event today and hosted by PeopleCert as well. We are excited to have you join us for today's webinar on ITIL, the value of ITIL in today's digital ecosystem. We are especially honored to welcome our guest speaker, Robert Edward Pinnington, who is an official ambassador and who brings a wealth of experience and a global perspective on implementing ITIL in real-world environments. Hello, Robert, again.
Hello. Shall I move on to the next slide?
Yeah, on behalf of my colleagues and everyone who joined us today, we want to thank you very much for this opportunity. And for everyone else, if you have any questions regarding ITIL training after the webinar, feel free to email us. I will chat the email address in chat box. And we will be happy to assist you in everything. And Robert, I will let you get started.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that very kind introduction, Christina.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
So welcome everyone to today's presentation on the value of ITIL in today's digital ecosystem. I'm going to be talking for about 1.5 hours, 40 minutes, and then we can do some do a question and answer session at the end. So you can have the opportunity to clarify anything you see in the presentation, any of the questions, particularly about the qualifications path within ITIL, as that has like 3 different main paths, and there's quite a few different opportunities of going through that. I'll just show you the agenda for today. So we're just going to talk about a little bit about, well, actually, the next slide is about ETA2U. So perhaps you can do the next slide, Christina. But we will be talking about what PeopleCert and ITIL and how ITIL has evolved since its very beginnings in the late 1990s. And then we'll look at ITIL Foundation's principles and practices. So there's within ITIL, we have a term that we call principles that help us guide any implementation of ITIL. And we have a whole series of best practices. Some of them you may be familiar with, service request management, incident management, but there's a whole raft of other ones that actually back up the whole of an implementation in a digital infrastructure. Then we'll look at a couple of case studies, some places where I've worked where we've implemented ITIL and how it's actually benefited those organizations. And we've got a couple of case studies there. We'll probably talk about a couple of others as we go through the whole of the presentation. And then I'm going to talk about the impact of DORA and NIS2 and how ITIL will help organizations go through adopting those 2 regulations and ensuring that their organizations are compliant with those new regulations that have come out across the EU. And then we'll look at career progression. We'll look at how one can move through the different qualification paths, and then finally we'll end up with that live questions and answers session, and hopefully I'll be able to answer all your questions. Sometimes those questions are quite tricky, but I'll do my best to answer those. So moving on, would you like to tell us a little bit about ETA2U? time I actually went to Romania was I was doing a project in Debrecen in Hungary, and it wasn't too far to run from Debrecen to actually get into the Romanian border, and I just ran there one weekend and ran back again. So that's my only experience of Romania, I'm sorry to say. So moving on. Okay, PeopleCert, the global certification leader across IT, service management and project management. They provide ITIL, and you may have heard of Prince2 as well, which is a project management methodology. And we have over 2.5 million ITIL professionals certified worldwide. It has been quite a ride. I first got involved with ITIL back in the late 1990s when it was ITIL version 2. And then in 2007, we produced a ITIL version 3, which was quite dominant for the next almost decade or so. We did an update in 2011. And then we launched ITIL 4 in 2019. That was actually launched by the predecessor company, Axelos, which is now being bought by PeopleCert. And it became the standard for service management. It incorporates various different more modern methods that people may have heard of, such as Agile and DevOps and Lean concepts. We incorporate those definitely within our guiding principles. The most popular certificate is the ITIL Foundation. The majority of the ITIL certificates issued are actually the foundation, and that is because that's the one you have to get first before you can progress up the career path of ITIL. There are, I mean, myself as an ITIL master, I've obviously gone through the whole of the qualification path, but there are now like several different methods of going through the ITIL qualification path, and we'll talk about those in a little bit later. That 2.5 million people being certified isn't just like an idle boast. It does matter because it reflects ITIL's widespread adoption across industries, especially in Europe, and you find ITIL qualified people in lots of different industries, whether it's finance, telecoms, the public sector. I myself, I've worked on ITIL projects in investment banks, in telecommunications, and in logistics. And ITIL is quite flexible and adaptable to lots of different companies, lots of different types of industries as well. We regularly publish updates on ITIL. We're in the process of looking at producing version 5 at the moment. That will come out in the next couple of years. We want to update that. We make sure that our ITIL certifications and methods actually reflect the latest innovations within IT. So we are also looking at not just things like as we move things into the cloud, but all these other regulations and developments, especially AI, that come into being. We have a large library of blogs and best practice and various documents on our website that you can go and download and have a look at those, and that they're updated on a very frequent basis. So we say that the large amount of ITIL certifications reflects ITIL's strong role in aligning IT services with business strategy right across the globe. where regulatory compliance and process maturities are valued, and we actually have a method of measuring companies' ITIL maturity, so we can look at what level of maturity. And some of you may be familiar with like sort of a 5-step maturity process where, you know, something's done the same way, we've written it down, we're measuring it, and then we can improve it. And we have that method that can be applied to any company, and we can review their ITIL implementation and see whether or not it's actually a very mature, or what level of maturity it has, and therefore we can then look at how to improve that level of maturity. So what is ITIL? It's the IT Infrastructure Library. It's a framework for IT service management. So the reason we say it's a framework and it's a best practice is it's not prescriptive. It's a bunch of best practices. It's suggestions of how you can actually improve your service management with your organization. It helps organizations align their IT operations with their business goals. We look very much at what it does the end customer actually value, so we can go from what do they, we can engage with those customers, we can work out what they value, and we co-create value within our service value system that is at the core of ITIL 4. It's extremely flexible and agile, and it has a holistic approach. We look at some of the guiding principles, and you'll see that agility and holistic approach in those guiding principles. We've moved on from ITIL version 3 to integrating DevOps, agile and lean thinking, and we focus very much on value co-creation between the IT and the business. And we want to make sure that unlike in the past, that the IT departments are actually focusing on creating value for our customers. We don't want, for instance, a service request process that is very cumbersome, has an awful lot of unnecessary approval steps in it, or unnecessary bureaucratic steps within that process. We're going to look at how we can optimize and automate all our processes, and that's the very core of ITIL, making sure that we can co-create value. We look at and this is one of the big improvements in ITIL version 4 over ITIL version 3. That was very sort of structured, very process heavy, focused very much on a whole bunch of steps. You had to do your strategy first, then design what your products were going to be, then transition them into production, and then look at how they would be work in an operation environment. It was extremely structured and reflected the thinking back in the early noughties. Now we like to see providing processes that are more about value co-creation and are very flexible and adaptive, to be centered on principles and collaboration and continuous improvement. And we don't want to just create a bunch of processes that then become cast in stone and people have to obey those processes. We want to be a lot more flexible. So just to reiterate that, we had this support and delivery model in ITIL version 2. We moved into a life cycle service thinking, where I was talking about this whole idea of we had service strategy, service design, service transition, service operations, and it was a life cycle thing. It wasn't very suitable for our modern world, where we like to think more in agile terms, how we have the combination of development operations together, building agile products. And so we moved on in 2019 to ITIL version 4. So a core component of that ITIL version 4 is something called the service value system. I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of the service value system, but we look at the whole of IT service management very much on as a big picture, how all parts of the organization work together to create value. So we have our guiding principles, things like focus on value, progress iteratively with feedback. We have a governance section. We have something called the service value chain, very much at the heart of it, where we look at how we actually co-create value with our business partners, how we interact with suppliers and other partners that might be providing some sort of service to the IT department. So this is where we're talking about people like AWS, Amazon Web Services, how they then integrate within your IT service management landscape. We have a bunch of practices where we used to call those processes in ITIL version 3, but we now call them practices, where we look at things like event and monitoring management, service request processes, incident management, problem management, change management. Those are the more popular, maybe, processes that ones might have heard of, but there are over 30 different practices now that have all been updated to reflect a more agile way of thinking, and along with that we talk about continual improvement as well. So we have this service value chain right at the center. Just to give you a little bit more information about that, that's where we can plan and improve any products that we're going to put into the production environment, as it were. How we engage with our customers so that we can work out what they consider, and this is very much at the heart of ITIL version 4, what our customers consider to be valuable, and not what the IT department thinks is valuable. In the past, IT departments very much like to play with new technology without actually considering what value that might bring to their end customer. And we also then look at how to design and transition that product into a production. How are we going to obtain that? Are we going to buy it off the shelf, or are we going to build it ourselves? What's the best way of doing that? And then how do we deliver and then support that product in a real world environment? So this service value chain allows you to tailor your workflows depending on what you're delivering, whether it's new apps, whether it's bug fixing, or you're doing a full IT transformation. As I say, I talked about there's over 30 different ITIL practices, and we group those now into 3 different types. There's general management practices, things about sort of strategy and workforce or talent management. We've got the standard service management practices like incident and problem and service management. So you've got general management, you've got service management, and then we've got technical management practices. One's about deployment, infrastructure and platform management, and how those all work together. And so that's sort of a bit about ITIL itself, but why does that matter? Why, especially in the European framework? Well, it's very much compliance ready. It aligns with ISO 2000, with GDPR and other regulatory standards, some of which we're going to be looking at in a little bit more depth later on in this presentation. It's very much business IT alignment, making sure that we can co-create value, and covers lots of different types of business sectors, and it supports a whole different set of hybrid IT environments that we now see in the modern world, where you will have like some legacy components, maybe mainframe components. You might have some stuff on site, on premises, such as, you know, different types of servers, whether or not they're Linux or NT or whatever. But you would also then have quite a few services that will run in the cloud, and how you actually will be able to do service management on all those different practices. All those different types of environments. And so the practices are flexible enough to accommodate this, the hybrid IT environments. Now, a little something about how you can do a career progression to ITIL. This, if anybody's ever looked at the PeopleCert website and looked at the ITIL qualifications, you will have seen this diagram, which to me, it looks quite obvious because I know all this stuff, but to anybody new, it could be quite daunting when you look at it. Right at the base here, I get my mouse onto the right slide and change my pointer to a laser pointer. Right at the base here, we have an ITIL foundation. This is your entry ticket. This is how you actually start your career path with ITIL qualifications. That's quite a simple examination. I think it was 40 odd questions. You need about 65% pass mark. And that gives you a basic grounding in ITIL. Tells you you'd be doing studying an overview of the service value system, the service value chain, the governance and the best practices, and it focuses on some of those core best practices in that ITIL foundation. And then we have various different career paths. We can look at becoming an ITIL practice manager. Very much sort of person who would do that will be like operations staff, process owners, people who are very much hands-on in those ITSM practices, such as like people who will be working in incident or change management. There's this whole path here when you end up being an ITIL managing professional. This is really for IT managers, team leads, service delivery professionals, people who are looking at end-to-end service management. And there is then finally this strategic leader path. This is really for senior leaders, chief information officers, digital transformation leads, and it's about the strategic alignment between IT and the business. And if we look at these different paths in a bit more detail, just want to take my pointer off. There's the managing professional, which is, as I say, designed for people who are managing teams. It's got 4 modules in it. This create, deliver and support, drive stakeholder value, which is about how to generate value, high velocity IT. This is very much about the agile and DevOps way of doing things. And then the direct, plan and improve module, which is all about how to structure or improve your IT service management. Right. The strategic leader is one that's been around for quite a while, which consists of that direct, plan and improve and the digital IT strategy qualification. That's quite an interesting one. You have to study, where you have to do an analysis of a case study to pass that examination. It's very much aimed towards chief information officers, heads of IT, strategic consultants, that sort of area. It looks at governance in more detail, long-term planning, digital disruption. And now we have this more recent qualification. We thought there was the jump from ITIL Foundation to either strategic leader or managing professional. It was too big a jump, and it really missed out on qualifications for people sort of in a more practical way. So that's why we produced a new qualification called the ITIL Practice Manager. So this was introduced in ITIL version 4. It focused very much on the execution of specific practices. So it's built on different modules. All those little indications here, these abbreviations, they all represent different practices. So SD is service desk, INM is incident management, PRM is problem management, SRM is service request management, MEM is monitoring and event management, and so on. So that they're all grouped together because they're all about the practices of monitoring, supporting and fulfilling your IT service management. Whereas things like deployment management, release management, change enablement are very much about planning and implementing and controlling changes to your IT service management landscape. And finally, the ones about continual improvement or service level management are very much, and supplier and relationship management are very much about collaborating with the other organizations internally, externally, and seeing how you can assure and improve your infrastructure or your whole service management. And we have a couple of specialist modules as well around asset management and business relationship management. So there's quite a few different paths one can go through to address a career progression within ITIL. And just to reiterate that, there's a foundation. You have to do the foundation. That's your entry ticket. There were then the higher certificates like the strategic leader, the managing professional, the practice manager. And this does indeed boost your credibility with the organisation and in quite a few cases their salary. And it opens doors right across the whole landscape of service, IT service management and DevOps. So a typical learner journey might look like, you start with the foundation, obviously. You may then progress on to doing the managing professional for operational leadership, and then move on to the strategic leader branch. So as you're moving up and you want to look at the more business level sort of influence of service management, or you may decide that you want to be more of an operational side person and you want to specialize in the practice managers to get deep expertise in those different key practices. So you're looking a lot more in depth at incident management or problem management. I trust that makes sense. I know it's quite a complicated path, and obviously when we come to the Q&A, we can look at some of those questions that you may have on the qualification path, and I can give you some help and advice on how to do that at the end. So we talked about what it is, and how you can get qualified in it. But you know, is this just a tick box exercise, or is it something actually that makes more sense? Okay, right, and I think it does. It's, you know, the benefits of ITIL are quite many. And if you just give me a moment to take a sip of water. So some of the top level benefits of ITIL version 4 is like it improves your service delivery and quality. You get clear processes and practices and responsibilities within each one of those different practices. You get standardized procedures so that people can see how these things work. There you can see like how your service request management from a customer point of view works, how the incident management works, and that should that standardization will end up with reducing the number of incidents and improving your service consistency. And it ensures that your IT services actually align with your business needs. You get better customer satisfaction. The whole idea of the service value system is to continuously evaluate how the services provide value and how we can improve on them. So we focus very much on co-creating value with our customers and not just delivering a bunch of outputs. It's more about making sure that how we deliver our services, the way we deliver them is actually of benefit to our business. It very much embraces design thinking and agile and responsiveness to user expectations, so how you can actually improve those services as you go through time. It leads all this improvement leads to increased efficiency and productivity. You have reusable workflows, means that there's less firefighting. We can see how our incident management rolls into problem management, that then rolls into change enablement. So we can improve our entire service management landscape, and we can see that we're using those same practices over and over again. So we have less firefighting. We have very much that incident management and problem management are very integrated in order to make sure that we can reduce or actually eliminate repeated issues. The whole idea is that we can see a bunch of incidents keep happening over and over again. We must look at that. Why do they keep happening, those same incidents? We'll look at that in our problem management, and we'll come up with the first point, some sort of workaround, so you can pass that back to your service desk so that they can then implement that workaround whenever those incidents reoccur. But then you'll go on to doing an error control, where you will try and take that workaround and see if there's a way we can actually permanently fix what is causing those incidents, and implement that through our change enablement best practice, so that we completely eliminate those sort of incidents. We also look at things like automation and continual improvement. They're baked into this framework. That you can see how each one of those different practices is made for continual improvement, and how you can review it and make sure that that best practice is actually improved over a period of time. So you have an incident management process, you build it initially, and then over a period of time you see where the gaps are and how you need to improve it. This especially helps in something like service request management, where you're looking at requests that come into the service desk. How can we improve that? How can we optimize and automate that? how can we make them simpler, because, you know, the best sophistication is simplicity. We have a lot of advice around cost control and value optimization. We can have better visibility where our resources are used. We can track and that and measure how those resources are used, so we can then reduce unplanned work, and which is, you know, some people say it's 3 to 5 times more expensive than planned work. So you can work on reducing those incidents that result in this unplanned work, sort of firefighting to fix those incidents. We make sure within the service value system, we're very much about thinking about value stream thinking, about business cases that help justify the spend on whatever improvement we want to do. It supports digital transformation. We're very much aware in the modern world that we need to be aligned with modern ways of working, like Agile, like DevOps, like Lean. One of the modules we talked about in the qualification path is high velocity IT, and that deals specifically with digital products environments. It's quite an interesting book. I helped, well, I contributed to it in a little way, and it is quite important that we move those things on and ensure that we are addressing the modern IT service management environment. It also helps reduce the amount of risk within your IT service management landscape. It helps with your compliance. It's got very strong practices for change enablement, for information security and service continuity. So these are the things that people talk about when we're talking about DORA and NIS2. So it helps organizations meet their requirements for GDPR, for ISO 2000 and these other newer regulatory standards. And finally, and taking into consideration Industry 5, it's very much about employee empowerment. It gives role clarity, so you can see who's supposed to be doing what. It reduces duplication of roles and micromanagement, because you can track what's happening within your service management landscape through the implementation of these different practices. And so it then promotes a culture of continual improvement. You really want to get people to buy into the idea of improving their processes and practices. So it's not just sort of top-down governance. It helps encourage people to grow within the organisation and to suggest new changes where we can improve our processes, our service request management, our incident management, and it really does help people focus and maybe acknowledge the human dynamics within, you know, any IT delivery. It's not just about zeros and ones, is it? It's not just about computers linking to networks and monitors and it's more than that. You know, your IT department's not going to work unless you've got people who can see how they can improve not only the process and practices, but themselves. And, you know, ITIL helps you move those people along somewhat. I talked about the guiding principles. These are the guiding principles that we put in place in ITIL 4 that help people focus a bit more on less on the individual practices and more about, how they should think about all those practices and how they link with each other. And it helps prevent a sort of a dogmatic process application. I've got my incident management process. It will be like this, and you will do it this way. And that's not really very industry 5, is it? And it's not very human centered. We need to look at how we implement any of these practices via the lens of the guiding principles, so that we don't implement any overly bureaucratic and inflexible processes. They should be we should be able to tailor our service design according to the environment we're working in, whether it's a finance environment, whether it's a an arts center, for instance, which will be completely different culture from like a finance house. And these guiding principles, they're really useful in sort of complex and fast moving environments. Because they help us think about the way we can improve our practices. So just looking at these different foundation principles, these guiding principles, you got to focus on value. We talked about the service value system. Well, I did, sorry. You weren't talking, it was just me. We were talking about the service value system earlier on, and very much around that. Service value system is about co-creating value. So always, whenever you're trying to improve something, focus on the value. What element I'm going to try and improve that will bring value to your customers and stakeholders? You don't want to, if you look at a process that you might already have, you might see steps where it's not producing any value. The most typical one, my favorite bugbear that I talk about when I'm talking about ITIL, is when you have a new joiner in an organization. Lots of organizations will not, when somebody joins the organization, they're signing a contract. They sign their contract, and at that point, if you've got an integrated service management system, once that contract's now hit the ERP system in the enterprise resource planning system like SAP or Azure, whatever you might have, once it's hit that, you can then trigger a whole bunch of service requests to ensure that person now they have an account, they have a laptop, they might have a phone, they may need a credit card for doing their business expenses, they'll need a desk or some place to sit or be assigned to a, and all those things can be triggered directly from that ERP system into your service request management process. Nobody needs to approve anything. It should just flow automatically. Whereas lots of organizations, they hire somebody, that person then joins in a few months' time once they've served their notice at the previous organization. And then we start with, we've got to open up a request to get them a laptop. They'll need a phone as well. That's another request. They're going to be doing an awful lot of business travel. We better get them a credit card. What applications do they need? Okay. Well, he's going to be working with these people in this department, so he'll need these 2 or 3. And it's just not all brought together, there's no focus on value. Why? That just takes time. That wastes money. That they're joining. They're joining in a few months' time. You can get all this stuff prepared beforehand. And this is, how an example where organizations don't focus on value. It's quite a waste of time and resources when new people join. That said, the second principle is that we should start where we are. You know, don't try and reinvent the wheel. You'll have an incident management process. You can improve it, but, you know, assess how well it's working at the moment, and then leverage what already works, what's good. If you've got a service request management process where you've got you know, 4 or 5 different service requests to get that person a laptop, to get them an network ID, to get them a phone, to get them a credit card. Well, you might have 4 separate processes there, but you can actually link them all together. So start where you are, just link them together. Just don't have them working in isolation from each other. And when we try and improve things, we should like progress iteratively with feedback. This is very much like an agile idea, isn't it? It's very much like, you know, performing a sprint. So one tries to break the work that we're actually going to implement into small chunks, improve that one thing, and get some feedback and see how well that improves things. You know, it's all about plan, do, check, act. So plan what you're going to do that thing, check whether or not it's worked, and act if it has worked to do the next improvement, or if it's not worked, go back and try and improve it again. Collaborate and promote visibility is another key guiding principle. You know, as you can tell from my beard, I'm not a young man. I've been in this business quite some time, and the way I've seen that IT departments get broken into like lots of different silos, and all these people sitting there, little silos. So you know, the Linux server guys are in a completely different structure, mindset from the NT guys, who are different from the VMS guys, and all these different departments. Yeah, I just noticed I was saying guys. I think it's guys and girls, isn't it? But they're all very like focused on what they do and how they do it, and they don't look at what any other teams do. And it's very much that sometimes they're very much like football teams, you know, where, you know, one football team's fans won't like the other football team's fans, and it's a very old-fashioned way of thinking. You should really sort of be trying to look at how those departments, those different silos, can actually work together. So think and work holistically is another one of the guiding principles, where we you know, it's a given that IT and business are interconnected, and so we should think about them as think about the business side of things when we're focused on value, but also on ourselves and all the different departments within our IT service management landscape, and make sure that we optimize across the whole system. If we've got an improvement in one particular part of the landscape, that might help people in another part of the landscape, and we need to promote that so that the organization as a whole can move forward. When I was talking about progressing iteratively and start where you are, one of the things that we also want to do is to and this sort of follows on from the ideas of lean and lean startup, is keeping it simple and practical. Eliminate waste. If you've got a process that doesn't, or step in a process that doesn't add value, don't do it. Get rid of it. Why would I need, if I'm the manager and I've hired somebody, why do I need to approve that that person's going to get a laptop? Of course he can have a laptop. Why do I need to approve it? I've already signed the contract to employ him. What's the point in adding that step in there? Just throw that step away. You don't need to do that. And the final guiding principle I want to talk about is optimizing and automate, improve your processes before you automate them. So, you know, if the simpler a process is, the easier it is to automate it, and you can use technology to scale those optimization. And there's lots of different ways you can do that. I was running a service desk in an investment bank where we had a very large set of users that we had to support, around about 8,000 users. We wanted to make sure that we were tracking all the IT assets that we had in the organization. And one of the problems that we had was we had like quite a few different systems that track different elements. So there was an ERP system where we ordered things. There was another system where we actually built operating systems on those new machines that came in. There was another one that assigned that machine to a user to a particular cost center, and there was another system that said, well, this machine is on this part of the network, and there's another system that said this machine is in this building. And one of the things that we did in terms of automation is that we linked all these items together into one big configuration management database, and then reconciled them and found out that we were being charged by our service provider of these machines millions more than what they should have been charging us, and there was allocations were in completely the wrong departments, and we saved millions with the service provider by actually tracking all this stuff. They were charging us for machines we no longer had. They were charging the wrong department for machines. It was complete chaos. And by looking holistically at this landscape of different systems, and then automating a reconciliation process across all these systems, we could eliminate lots of waste and bad mischarging of resources. So I need a sip of water. I talked about some of the key ITIL 4 practices. I'm sure, has everybody heard of incident management? I know. Just raise your hand, teams. Yeah, I'm sure you have. And problem management follows on from that, and on from that, then it's change enablement, and that will then help us in our continual improvement. So incident management, the goal of incident management is to restore normal service operation as quickly as possible and minimize the impact of any incident. It's focused on fixing what's broken now. It's very reactive. You'll need a service desk. You'll need some sort of ticketing system like ServiceNow or Jira. There's some of the more popular ones. And you'll need trained service desk agents to actually record those incidents. We're now moving to a world where you can have chatbots that actually will interact with your customers and record those incidents and categorize them for you, so it becomes easier to actually pass that on to your second level support to help get those people's incident addressed. So the whole value of incident management is that it reduces downtime and improves user satisfaction. So we can look at some really simple examples. At the moment, my main contract is with a company you may have heard of, IKEA, and we do warehouse automation. And one of the things that occurs frequently is one of the servers that looks after the automation of moving pallets around the warehouse. It will have a block where the service is no longer running, and all we need to do there is get a system admin person to come in, log onto the machine and restart those services. And it's a very simple task, and we can create a knowledge article, and we can when a user in one of the hundreds of warehouses IKEA has phones up and says this silo, this set of cranes and conveyors is no longer working, the service desk agent can look into their knowledge management and see, here's a workaround. If that's happening, we need to restart that service. So they can then pass that on to the second level support, the system administrators. They can log onto the machine and they can restart that service. And it's all documented, and we will then, if that continues to occur, we'll then move into problem management. And so the goal of problem management is to identify and remove any root causes of incidents and prevent their reoccurrence. We want to work proactively on any trending incidents that we might see, or reactively after, like, say, a major incident where a catastrophe has happened, and we can try and we'll work to do a root cause analysis, or something like the 5 whys, in order to reduce those repeated issues. So that will stabilize the environment, and you'll have less incidents, you'll have improved user satisfaction. Change enablement. That used to be called change management. You may have heard of change management before, but we now call it change enablement. So it ensures that changes are carried out safely and with minimal disruption. It focuses on looking at the risks of each change, whether or not they've been tested, and how you then approve those to be implemented in production. So we have, standard changes, or normal, or which sometimes could be packaged so well that you can then just move them into your service request management process. You've got normal changes where you can schedule those and put those onto a change calendar. And finally, you've got like emergency changes where something catastrophic has gone wrong, and we need to fix them quite quickly. So change enablement tries to balance agility and control. We don't want to have a prescriptive change approval process or change review board. We want to make that flexible as possible, but and without increasing risk. Continual improvement. So let's try and align our services and practices with changing business needs, and look at incremental improvements. So going back a couple of slides when we started talking about process iteratively with feedback, this is very much what we're going to do in continual improvement. It's going to use feedback loops. We're going to look at critical success factors, or KPIs, or now we sort of moved on now. It's more about OKRs, objectives and key results, and tracking suggestions from our user base, from our within IT service management, but also from within the business, and seeing what those different improvement suggestions are and how we can actually implement them. Do they actually make any sort of sense on an operational, tactical or strategic level? And another key practice is information security management, where we want to protect the confidentiality, integrity and availability of all our data and services. And this helps reduce risk, ensures compliance with things like GDPR. So making sure that we were updating our password policies, or ensuring that we've got multi-factor authentication enabled, or doing some sort of simulation to see if people actually pay attention to what they should do when they get a phishing email. And these are the 4 key practices that are actually part of the foundation exam. So we want to focus on those when we do the foundation exam. There's another 8 that we look at in a bit more, in slightly less detail in the foundation exam. And if you want to look at any of these in detail, through the different qualification paths, very much on the practice manager, you'll look at these in great detail. Let me. So we wanted to talk a little bit how ITIL helps with the new or newer compliance-based sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Regulations that are coming in soon. So DORA, the Digital Operations Resilience Act, it's mandatory for financial entities in the EU from January of this year, and it's very much a serious business, especially in terms of IT risk and incident response, and looking at how you interact and classify your third parties. And so ITIL very much has a robust framework to help organizations meet its DORA requirements. And then the network so this is the second iteration. I think the first one came out in 2016, and this update came out in 2023. So the update strengthens requirements across different sectors with a lot broader scope and stricter enforcement. So it works alongside the DORA regulation and sets version 2 really is more focused on cyber security standards, whereas DORA is more on IT, ICT resilience. So I just told you ITIL meets that, and it's unfair of me to say I think it does address it in some ways, without actually explaining how ITIL actually helps you address your DORA compliance. So for instance, like Articles 5 to 10 are about identification, classification, mitigation, and reporting of different risks. And so you can use the risk management best practice there, because that provides for a structured approach for identifying and assessing risks across services. And of course, your information security management, because that's going to address confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information, which is exactly what DORA mandates. And the service value chain there helps a little bit as well, because it integrates risk into every stage of the life cycle, from like design to transition to operation, and it enables a continuous risk assessment and treatment of any plans that you implement to make sure that they actually comply with DORA. Articles 15 to 20 actually cover the incident handling, and I have talked quite a bit about the classification of notification of authorities of big incidents and incident breaches. So our incident management will ensure some sort of fast recovery there. We have a part of incident management will have a major incident management process. And that's definitely a suggestion when you implement incident management. And of course, you've got your problem management that makes sure that we don't have reoccurrence of any major incidents, because we're going to look at the root cause of that major incident and how we can actually address that. Articles 21 to 24 DORA, that they want regular scenario-based testing of business continuity. It's all about, you know, resilience. It's all about how you do your continuity management, and ITIL has a service continuity management practice within its best practices. We also have that change enablement and make sure that we can test things in our test environment and roll them back, and we know how we're going to improve the resilience of our IT landscape. And of course, like things like the two processes of IT asset management and configuration management, make sure that we can baseline our environment and we know what elements are actually within our environment. Articles 25 to 39, that's a typo, I think. Yeah, it is. Sorry, there's a typo there. That's sorry. That should be 25, not 23. DORA wants governance over third parties. So lots of organisations now don't just have their IT in-house. They have some form of third party. You might have stuff in the cloud like Amazon Web Services. You may have organisations that are then, you've outsourced your IT or elements of your IT. You may outsource your service desk. You might outsource the server management teams, the various different elements that you might outsource. And of course, you're always going to have vendors who are supplying with different pieces of equipment or software. And DORA wants governance and risk controls over those third-party providers. So within where we define our contracts and service level agreements or underpinning contracts with our suppliers, we've got information security management that applies the controls over data sharing and supplier access. Working in the logistics area, we often have lots of automation suppliers that come to us now that we've hired to actually implement some automation in our warehouses, and we have very strict rules and regulations on how we actually allow them access into our corporate network, and how long they get that access for, and how, if they need a higher level of access, how they can actually request that higher level of access, and that access will only be valid for a certain period of time. We have by default accounts for third parties that will expire after 90 days. And if they're not used after 30 days, then that account gets locked out. There's a whole series of different levels we can of oversight we can have over our third parties within information security management, so that we can apply controls to the way we share our data. DORA also wants some sort of control in over or should we say board level control. Make sure that the board is responsible and accountable for any ICT risks. There's an ITIL 4 has a governance model within it, ensures that the roles and responsibilities and decision making are documented and are auditable. The guiding principles also helps us build a culture of alignment with DORA. So we make sure that we operationalize executive oversight and make sure the board approval isn't just some form of tick box exercise. Oh yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, don't worry. But they shouldn't just believe the IT department when it says, yeah, everything's fine. The board needs to actually take an active interest in this. So how does ITIL then address an IS2? Well, NIS2 wants us to have an area where we're looking at protecting our critical digital services, like in energy or health or finance, or lots of different infrastructure now within the modern world is very much relying on IT, and we want to make sure we've got risk and incident management in place. So we have mandatory cybersecurity policies and incident handling plans. We want to make sure for incident classification and reporting areas that we are logging all our incidents, and that we have escalation audit trials for all our incidents. We want some form of accountability as well, so senior management is legally liable for failures. We want to make sure our supplier risk is addressed, and that's why we've got our supplier management and our information security management. And one of the things that NIS2 brings is that national authorities can actually audit and fine, even possibly ban people from certain areas if they don't comply with the rules. A couple of case studies. I did some work for a healthcare organisation in the UK. You may have heard of them. Bupa? I don't know. Have you heard of Bupa? Maybe. It's a big private healthcare company in the UK, and one of the things that was causing them problems was that they kept failing audits due to poor their IT environment wasn't what they thought they had or what they actually had, were two entirely separate things. Their configuration management database wasn't reflecting what actually they had in their production environment. They weren't really doing a proper change enablement process, and so that's one of the things that we did. This is how we found out. Well, one of the things we found out when I was doing this contract was there was no control of anybody changing any sort of server or network components. People, it was like the Wild West in this organisation. It was really odd. You'd think, it's such a big brand, and they weren't doing things at all well. So we looked at change enablement, and we improved their mean response time quite significantly, because we were actually reducing the amount of change in their product. Well, we were reducing, we were controlling the change in the production environment a lot better than was done before. Especially they weren't doing it. It was really odd. Another place, when I was working for an investment bank, we actually improved our incident problem management by a couple of things we did. A lot of the time, what was happening, we were getting incidents, but they were actually requests. I know it sounds a bit odd, but people were saying, I'd like a new PC, and they were like, or I've got a new joiner, they need a new PC. But that wasn't recorded as a separate service request. It was recorded as an incident. It was really a bit strange when I got there. So we actually built a website on the intranet that allowed us to capture the service requests. And because we wanted to keep it simple and more business focused, rather than saying giving people the specs of the different machines that they could order, we just split it into like 2 different types of machines. Do you want a high-end machine? Do you want a low-end machine? You want a high-end machine, it's going to cost you more. And we give them the price of how much more it would cost. And say, unless you really need that high-end machine, go with the lower-end one. And it was just a very simple, Python script that produced a page that we could then feed into the service request management of our service request tool, which hadn't been used up to that point. Another thing that we did there was we had a very large investment bank trading floor. So there was lots of positions. There was 500 positions, about size of a football pitch. One of the things we used to do a run around it at Christmas as a charity exercise. But it used to feature on German television an awful lot, because that's where they do the interviews when they were interviewing the economists from this particular bank. And one of the problems was that we had our second level supporters sitting in the middle of the trading floor, right in the middle, and they'd have to go all the way to one end to go and address somebody's issue. But on the way, they would get stopped all the time. As you're going by, can you come and help me? Can you just come fix? Well, no, I'm supposed to be going to see him over there, and I've got 15 minutes to get to him. Otherwise, I'm going to breach an SLA. But I don't care about that. Come on, just it won't take you a minute. And of course, that person hadn't called the service desk, so we weren't capturing that incident. We couldn't really track how many people we really needed. And so it was like very much a chaotic environment, and we couldn't really justify how many people we had and why we needed that many people. So one evening I was out with my wife in a restaurant, and we came across it was back in the noughties, and these guys had like handhelds. It was in the days before, would you believe it, before smartphones, but he had like a little handheld device, like a little tablet, where we could record our order on it. And I went, where'd you get that from? So I went and saw a couple of the suppliers of restaurants for these handhelds, and we integrated that into our service desk software, so that the guys would get, they'd go off to somebody's desk, but they could then, if they got stopped by one of the users, they could actually, record rather than a drink. They'd know what table it was at, because it was a certain row and number within that row. And then they could, and rather than saying they were recording a drink, they say, well, there's a problem with the monitor. And what did I do? Well, I just turned it on. And we would then get a record of what that incident was, whereas we were missing all those to start off with. Yeah, so that then enabled us to see how we address those issues. We improved the firewalls around that trading floor, so we reduced the amount of risk from outside, and we controlled that incident management. Right. I'll be talking for 1.5 hours now, almost. I think I'm ready for questions. Does anybody have any? Do you need to know more about the certification or course options? Please don't be shy.
I think that would be a wonderful idea. Thank you very much for your presentation. The case studies were more delicious than the theory itself.
Okay.
And I can confess that there are certain ideas that I will implement in my life as of now.
Oh, great.
So they are highly practical. Therefore, the question would be, what are the certification path, and what would be a possibility of a more streamlined approach, so to speak, when we're shifting from operational towards something more strategic? Or let's say from the perspective of a person who's involved in the daily business, then progressing to process improvement, and then towards a broader overview, which includes and involves more strategy.
Well, Daniel, it is
Yes.
Daniel, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I just flicked straight back to the qualification slide. I mean, obviously, if you're starting on a foundation path, I think you if I understood you correctly, you're very much on the operational side at the moment.
I started with what could be assimilated as support. I was doing a lot of support in different fields so far, and I could just sense certain improvements that could have been made, but it was not the right level.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm aiming at something more influential, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a qualification path, that would be definitely from the foundation. And I'd say if you're interested in continual improvement, look at the practice manager for collaborate, assure, and improve. Would be my initial step. So look at getting that, and then also look at getting the create, deliver, and support. And so then if you take this one after the foundation, so create, deliver, and support, and then you're saying you're interested in continual improvement and that sort of relationship stuff, then this collaborate, assure, and improve certificate would then address that. So with both of those two, you become an ITIL practice manager.
All right. And what if we analyze the other path, which starts with driving stakeholder value? What might that entail?
Driving stakeholder value. What in terms of it's looking at the sort of the whole of the service value system. I don't know whether you've ever seen the service value system, but looking at and particularly about the service value chain and how you actually engage with your different stakeholders to determine what they value, and so what they really want addressed. What are their frustrations? Where do they see from their perspective where IT's not actually doing, or the IT service management's not actually doing what they want it to do, and how they perceive their stakeholders, how they see value, and how IT can provide value to them.
So that would be more, let's say, strategy oriented and business communication, and
very much so.
Some more analytical approach.
Yeah. Well, I'd say it was more like, customer relationship management, really.
Yeah, that sounds more like the degree of contact and influence and the feedback loop that would eventually make a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, one of the, I mean, I started off on the business side of things and then sort of became a subject matter expert in a particular type of software, and then ended up working with that software company. And then when I joined the finance sector, I was then in IT, and the one advantage I had was I've been on the other side of the fence, you see.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Whereas a lot of people that they'll maybe their first job in IT is actually on a service desk. Okay, and so they're just answering lots of calls from people who are, well, very annoyed, shall we say, because things aren't working, and they don't have an appreciation of why those people are annoyed and why they've got frustrations. And that's one of the things that drives stakeholder value, is helps you identify and helps you deal with. I mean, one of the things we do in the investment bank, I told you we had a row right in the middle of this large trading floor. One of the things I insisted on doing is that we had a service desk that was actually in another building, and we would take one of the people from the service desk and put them in this row that we were in, and so that you would see what it was like working on a trading floor, and it was quite an eye-opener for them. So it helped them appreciate what actually happens on a trading floor, how these very well, I wouldn't say high-powered individuals, but I mean certainly very stressed individuals, and very well, they're very much sort of like maths geniuses, quants, and they're all a bit odd really, and shout an awful lot when they don't get what they want. But yes, it helped them deal with those. If they saw what that environment was really like and why they were like that, then it helped develop them as a service desk agent. And then two of the guys who worked on the service desks have now created on my service desk have created a company that is addressing ITSM improvements in Africa.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they're good guys actually.
I'm actually the other way around. I've had a very diverse experience as a support agent in different lines of business, and dealing with the frustration, I was also able to pause and reflect on the root causes why certain people, certain customers were frustrated, and the reoccurring problems, the way the reoccurring problems could have been basically avoided. And now I have a broader vision, or let's say a better vision of how the root causes can be identified, and then it goes into business case analysis and costs and FTEs and such. And I'd like to have a progression on that side of the fence, let's say.
Yeah, I definitely, if you're talking about continual improvement, then as a first stepping stone, I can't get my mouse onto the right screen. Hang on a second. There we go.
Besides taking the foundation.
Yeah, so I go from the foundation and then look at this one, collaborate, assure, and improve, because it's got the the supply management in it. It's got the continual improvement in it. It's got service level management in it. I think that sounds like where you're heading at the moment, Daniel.
All right.
Yeah, I'd probably go ITIL foundation, collaborate, assure, and improve, and then do create and deliver. And then if you're, if you've got those two, you end up with that. But I mean, that will then help you then move on to like sort of driving stakeholder value, which then sort of links in very much with the supply management that's in this section.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not very clear.
Yeah.
to people who've not seen this diagram before, but also this high velocity IT is all about sort of the DevOps, agile, lean world, and that sort of links together with your change enablement, release management, and deployment management.
Would that automatically need very in-depth knowledge, as in technical knowledge, programming, coding?
No, I wouldn't say so. No, because
or just like a bird view understanding of what happens on a daily basis in certain departments.
Well, the point of the different certifications is to actually teach you this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, the point isn't to do a tick box and say, oh, I've got the certificate. It's to actually learn something, and you learn about these different processes and practices and what the elements that you would need in order to implement an IT service management landscape that involved agile thinking or DevOps thinking.
That sounds way clearer to me. Thank you.
Good. Anybody else got questions?
Hello. I have a question. So regarding the strategic leader certification, as I see, there are 3 steps. Well, one, I did take my foundation certificate, and now it should be direct plan and improve, and after that digital and IT strategy, right?
I would go that way, yes. I mean, there's no reason why you can't do this one first and then this one, but I think that's a more
this is the
general one, whereas this is very much on the strategy. And I think certainly when I did it, I found it beneficial to have already done that before you did that.
Okay, but this is the path.
Yeah, to be a strategic leader, you need obviously the foundation. You need
basically there are 2 different certifications. It's direct plan and improve and digital and IT strategy.
Correct.
There are different. Okay. And in the end, how do you receive the strategic leader certification?
I've seen
it's a very nice badge.
It's a perfectly sensible question. It's so as you've done the foundation, you probably know about PeopleCert's online proctoring,
yes.
and you go online, you do your exam, they record that you've passed your exam, and then so because they record that you passed your exam, you can see your record online, what you've actually passed. So once you've done both of those, PeopleCert will then automatically give you the ITIL strategic leader.
Okay, I understand.
I mean, sometimes it takes a couple of days before it comes through.
Well, it's not like it's a hurry, but I thought there is a process or something you need to send them to them.
No, they just do it. Okay. I mean, I could go and log onto my my PeopleCert account. You can see what it looks like. How am I doing that? If you've got a moment, hang on a second. Oops, caps lock. Takes a little while to log in, but hang on. There we go. We were talking about strategic leader, yeah. So I wonder if it's got a date. Yes, look. So I'd done the previous certificate. How do I pronounce your name? Is it Nicolescu?
Nicolescu, yes.
Right. Is that your first name or surname?
That's my family name.
Your family name? Oh, right. So are you Alexander then?
Yes, you can call
Have I
me.
been calling everything the wrong thing? Sorry. Okay. Right. Yeah. So I did my digital IT strategy certificate, and that says it was issued on the 26th of July 2021, and then the IT strategic leader. Oh, they actually issued it on the same day. All right. Okay.
Ah, so you received it in the same day.
I'm not entirely sure that that's 100% accurate. I've got an idea that it was like 1 or 2 days in between, but yeah, I bet they just give it to you basically because
Okay.
they know you've passed. You passed the 2 other exams, and then they assign it on your PeopleCert account. It's as simple as that.
Now I have a path that I'm going to follow. So
Okay, great. I'm glad I can help you. So the person I called Daniel, is your name actually Ion then?
No, my name Ion is my surname.
Oh right, okay.
So you're calling me
People got it
the right
different
way.
ways around.
I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
think it depends on the format that the
The
Teams
company
displays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that sort of makes sense. Okay. Anybody else got any questions?
There would be a question still. All right.
Okay.
How long do these certifications take before they are how the system works? As in, you take the courses, then you have a certain pre-planned exam schedule, and then the certificate is being issued within how long?
Okay. So you can take the course. You can either do the courses online, or you can do it in a classroom, or you can do it virtually. I do trainings virtually for a lot of people, and once you've done the training, the people that you purchased your training from will provide you with a voucher that you can go onto the PeopleCert website and then book your exam, and you can it's online proctoring, so you can your exam voucher will have a certain period, validity period, I think, which is normally a year from when you when you book on the course. Okay, so if your course starts on January the 1st, you can book an exam all the way up until the 31st of December. It depends on the supply of the course. You do the exam, right, And then that exam, once you've done that online exam, they'll give you your provisional results, and assuming that you've passed, within about 2-3 days, you will get an update like I just showed you, where on your PeopleCert account, it's giving you the certificate, gives you a certificate number, and so on and so forth. And then ITIL certification is now valid for 3 years, and then you have 2 choices. You can either retake your certificate, or you can do something called have a PeopleCert account and do something called continual professional development, whereby you give evidence of work you've done in order to stay current with your ITIL certification. So, for instance, I've done I will book a couple of hours for this presentation, and plus another hour or so for preparation of this presentation as part of my continual professional development. And you need to get a certain number of points within a year. And then if you do that for the next 3 years, your certificates get automatically renewed. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay. Sometimes it's quite involved, some of the questions. Perhaps I talk too much in my answers. I worry.
I think you're very thorough. And I appreciate that a lot.
Hello, Gabriella. I think you.
Hello. I have a question. Do you have to renew your certificates? Because I saw some availability terms, data or something, or it was something else. I didn't see it properly. I mean, are they?
Yeah, your foundation exists forever, but the higher level certificates, especially if you get up to like sort of these levels, you need to renew those every 3 years. And there's say 2 ways of doing it, Gabriella. You can either retake the exam, right?
Okay.
Or you can do maintain what happens for most people, well, most training organizations, they give you a voucher for like 1 year's membership of PeopleCert. And it costs, I think I can't remember how much it costs now.
Because I don't know, there are some you need to pay fees every year, or depends what kind.
Yeah, you might get a voucher for a year's worth, and if you renew it for the next 2 years and then do what's called continual professional development and record like sort of 20 hours of work there at least, your certificate after 3 years will then automatically be renewed. So all the certificates I've done, I've never had to retake an exam.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions? Don't be shy. I'm very friendly. Mikhail, you're on mute.
Hello.
Hi.
I want to ask you about these ITIL extension modules, which contain business relationship management. I see they are on the basis of ITIL Foundation. I have a certificate for ITIL Foundation. And I want to ask you, these have also certificates?
You've embarrassed me now, because I'm not entirely sure on that, actually.
Okay, not my intention.
Yeah. I mean, I know certainly everything within here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how the extension modules work. Sorry, because I've not done them.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd rather tell the truth, Mikhail, rather than try and make something up on the spot.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll find out for you though.
Thank you.
If you give me, or maybe I can email Christina, and when she sends out the recording and presentation material will include the answer to your question on the extension modules.
Okay. Thank you very
yeah,
much.
I will make sure of you to receive the answer. I already wrote your name down, and I'll get back to you on that.
Thank you very much.
I think we're coming to the end now. Almost at the end, aren't we? 20, yeah. And so, you know, unless you've got any more questions, I'd just like to leave you with a few final thoughts that, you know, I thought more relevant than ever. It's structured enough for compliance, and it's agile enough for DevOps. And I think it really does help improve people's organizations' operational resilience. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for your attention and coming to this seminar and webinar, and thank ETA2U for giving me this opportunity to talk to all of you. Thank you very much.